Bellator 272. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. Smash that like button. Let's get at least 150 likes on this Bellator breakdown. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn those post notifications on. Exciting card Friday with Bellator. We got good action on the prelims all the way up, so I'm really looking forward to talking about it. Let's jump to the first fight of the night. It features Kyle Crutchmer versus Oliver Enkamp. This is a fun battle of decent prospects in the welterweight division. Crutchmer on one side, dangerous wrestler. Enkamp on the other side, slick submission specialist. Now, I do think Kyle Crutchmer does get this one done, but he's going to have to overcome some things here. He's the shorter guy by 3 inches. He's got a 9-inch reach disadvantage. If he sits on the feet with the lanky striker Oliver Enkamp, there could be some problems there, but Crutchmer's not a guy that's just going to sit in there and trade. If he fights a guy with equivalent wrestling, maybe could run into trouble, but in this fight, though Enkamp very dangerous with his submission game, I see Crutchmer getting inside, getting in close, making it dirty in the clinch, working towards takedowns and trips. I don't think Enkamp will be able to stop that consistent and constant takedown attack from Kyle Crutchmer. So I do think he'll win it. Enkamp, tricky guy to fight here, ex-UFC fighter, unbeaten in his Bellator run so far, 3-fight winning streak, all finishes. Still though, Crutchmer stylistically is going to be really difficult. Training over at AKA, that alone is a huge advantage because you know the wrestlers there are absolute savages. He's a slight favorite in this spot. I'll bring up best fight odds, or excuse me, fightodds.io for the most accurate odds possible. Let's see what they're sitting around for this first fight on this Bellator card. Seems like they don't have them up yet. Let's jump to best fight odds. Kyle Crutchmer, -120, Oliver Enkamp, +114. So pretty similar to what's on screen here at Tapology. I think the very slight favorite wins. I do think decision and expect grappling heavy attack, but be cautious because Oliver Enkamp has some nasty chokes. If he somehow gets a guillotine locked in, it could be trouble, though I think Crutchmer's skill set well enough to fight through that. Striking wise, don't stand and trade with Enkamp. He'll look to get inside. Should be a fun first matchup to start the night off between good prospects in this welterweight division. Second fight of the night, Spike Carlyle returns. He fights Dan Moret, takes this fight on short notice. Carlyle recently fighting in the UFC, was released, back-to-back wins, and now you look at that last fight, it was just a month ago. He jumps in and fights Dan Moret in what is not an easy fight. I'm going to be picking Dan Moret in this spot. He's proven himself as difficult to deal with and control, especially on the ground. Spike Carlyle does have some dynamite in the hands, but I feel like Dan Moret's adaptive kickboxing game will be too much. He's pretty slick on the feet. He's also a southpaw, good straight punches, lots of hand movement and feints, and his footwork is solid. You look at fights where he's out wrestled, yes, and loses. He's hard to keep down and control. Spike Carlyle, though, super explosive, athletic. If he touches the chin, can do some serious damage, and he's really dangerous on top. Can work towards submissions, break you down, and work towards rear naked chokes. I feel like Spike Carlyle is a great addition here for Bellator, but this matchup, not easy stylistically. He'll also have to overcome that size differential, though. He's used to giving up a bit of height and has beaten taller opponents. I still think Dan Moret edges him by a smidge here. Looking at the lines, though, they are close, but in favor of Carlyle, -137, +125. I'm liking Dan Moret, the underdog, though I believe he lost his debut. He, to me, lost the fight against Goichi Yamamuchi. You can't really convince me otherwise there. But still, this matchup, I can see him winning because he still gave Goichi a tough fight and was able to go to the scorecards and be competitive enough that a controversial decision came into play. I'm going Dan Moret, win by a decision, a hard-fought one. He's going to beat Spike Carlyle in the second fight of the night. Next one, Mike Hamel versus Killys Mota. Mike Hamel, record-wise, you look at it and you don't know the skill set you're about to run into. I got Mike Hamel beating Killys Mota here. I like a lot of things from Mike. Main thing, though, is going to be that consistent wrestling attack and top control. He's tricky standing up, too, because he's a little bit awkward. He's a southpaw. On his opposite side, Mota, I do think is the better striker. He's got a Thai style. He's pretty solid with his low kicks and hooks. He's strong in the clinch, good Muay Thai in the clinch. I feel like his grappling skill set, submission-wise, will definitely be there. But you're dealing with Mike Hamel, who on top is a beast. Obviously, he loses to Usman Nurmagomedov. That's an obvious loss. Split decision against Boris, where he gave him hell, and then a win against Bryce Logan. And let's just jump back to a while ago. We fought Bruno Souza, who's now in the UFC, and just fought Melsik Baghdadian. Disqualified in that fight, but he was dominating on the ground. I see him getting on top of Khalid Mota, beating him up from top position, working towards a dominant unanimous decision win. I got Mike Hamel in this spot. He is, I believe, the underdog too. Yeah, he's about plus 118, plus 110 range to the minus 122 favorite, Khalid Mota. I'm liking Mike Hamel a lot here. I'm excited to see what happens between these two. I got the underdog, Mike Hamel. I love his style. I think he's a really fun guy to watch. And honestly, when you're dealing with hellish wrestlers like him, it's going to be a struggle. And I think Khalid Mota does struggle in this spot here. Don't doubt Hamel because of the record. And the bookies know this. The odds are close. They're not as widespread as maybe some could have expected. Mike Hamel's a solid fighter, though 1-2 in Bellator. I do think he gets a second win here in this bout and beats Khalid Mota decision in this lightweight fight. Justin Montalvo, Jacob Bohn. You know, this is an interesting fight. You got a guy, Bohn, with 17 fights. Montalvo, only 3. I'm going with experience here. Jacob Bohn is on a 3-fight winning streak as a pro. He did lose an exhibition bout in his last one, but doesn't count against his record. Pretty aggressive fighter. His wrestling is consistent. He'll mix in high kicks and then shoot in for takedowns. He's going to be looking to get takedowns consistently throughout. Montalvo's stand-up game is crisp. He's got nice boxing. He fights well in the center of the octagon, or rather the cage. Good hands, a bit of pop too, rips to the body nicely. I think he's a really solid prospect and he's smooth, but to give him a guy with 17 pro bouts, tricky wrestling game, Montalvo has struggled a bit on the floor in the past. I see him struggling here. I think Jacob Bohn can work towards a submission in the 3rd round, potentially rear naked choke. I got the underdog, Jacob Bohn, in this spot. Is he the dog, actually? I don't believe the odds are fully out for this fight, so I expect when they do drop Jacob Bohn to be a dog against Montalvo. We'll talk deeper about the betting with this week's Best MMA Bets. Make sure you tune into that, and also be doing the live breakdown of this Bellator card to interact with you guys and see what you guys think. So make sure you tune into that as well. It'll be on Tuesday. I think Jacob Bohn, underdog, gets it done. Obviously, we don't know officially if he's the dog, but I expect him to be a slight dog here against the unbeaten Justin Montalvo. Jacob Bohn for the win by submission in the 3rd. Next one, Vinicius de Jesus versus Levan Chokheli. It's a good middleweight matchup. Even though de Jesus hasn't had great success so far in his past 2, I mean, losing over an LFA, Jaleel Willis, tough fighter, and then he loses to Vanderford in his debut. Now they give him a guy, Levan Chokheli, who's a hellish striker, but I think Vinicius de Jesus can go through and win this bout here. Tricky on the ground, competes consistently in grappling, very solid in the clinch with his trips, can get on top and work towards submission, standing up. I mean, this is not a guy who's chinny. He's never been finished as a professional. He can be controlled by beast wrestlers. That's not what you're getting with Chokheli. You're getting a purist striker with Levan Chokheli, but where he's going to struggle is when he gets clinched up and work towards takedowns. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if de Jesus gets a submission on Chokheli, potentially a weird scramble position. Maybe he works towards the back and grabs a rear naked choke. Levan is fantastic on the feet, but I think de Jesus has the game to give him a lot of problems and beat him here, because it's not like de Jesus is bad striking either. He's pretty explosive. He's got big hooks inside. Not as technically precise as Levan, but I still think Vinicius de Jesus is going to be here in his face, making this a nasty fight, and he's going to win a hard-fought decision or even a submission here. I got de Jesus. Now, looking at the odds for de Jesus, he's the underdog, plus 113, minus 125. You look, the odds have shifted since they were first released on Tapology, and that's for good reason. Stylistically, this is a really tough fight for Levan. I am going Vinicius de Jesus win in this spot as an underdog over Levan Chokheli. Now, the next one is very exciting. Debut for Kai Kamaka III And he takes on John DeJesus, the second DeJesus on the card. No relation between the two. Honestly, this is a tricky one to pick between because John is a dangerous striker. I'm going to be honest, from what I've seen as of late, I got to go with the Bellator vet, John DeJesus, to beat Kamaka III. Kamaka's an explosive striker. He hits hard. He comes inside and rushes, but he's given up a serious disadvantage in the reach. Looking at it, 7-inch reach disadvantage, 2-inch height disadvantage. John DeJesus is quick. He fights well from the outside. There's so much to like about DeJesus in this fight. He's also a southpaw. Though Kamaka hits hard, he's explosive and he's strong inside. I don't see him going out there and just out-wrestling DeJesus for 3 rounds. He's going to be forced to stand and trade. I think... I think DeJesus beats him from range, landing the better shots, and works towards a hard-fought decision. I do expect this to be a close bout. I think John DeJesus wins. Kamaka getting a serious, difficult fight in his Bellator debut, and I'm really intrigued by this fight too because it's UFC, like lower level lightweight. Granted, he's coming off a draw to Danny Chavez. Unfortunately, now leaving the UFC, jumps to Bellator, gets a fight against a mid-level Bellator featherweight, a good featherweight, a tricky featherweight in John DeJesus. Not going to beat the best guys in the world in the featherweight division, but he's definitely going to be there giving tricky prospects hard fights. Kamaka, though UFC experienced, I think he struggles in this spot. John DeJesus for the win. I expect him to work towards a decision. Great striking match here. I expect entertainment for sure on this one. And I got to go DeJesus. Looking at the odds, underdog, plus 175. Minus 190. I like that plus 175 tag. I think John DeJesus, the dog, beats Kamaka III in this featherweight fight. Gives him a loss in his Bellator debut. You're not just going to jump from UFC to Bellator easily. I think there'll be some Bellator jitters, especially coming in as an ex-UFC fighter. Maybe some added pressure too. I like John DeJesus a lot in this fight. He's going to beat Kamaka on the scorecards. Now, the next fight is the featured prelim, and it features Alexander Shabliy versus Bobby King. Real prospect with Shabliy. He's going to win this fight. I respect Bobby King, 37 years of age, was able to go out there and beat Nick Newell, who's a real fan favorite guy. I mean, obviously overcoming his disability of having, only half one of his arms, and he was able to defeat him, towards a hard-fought decision. You look at his other fights, he beat Steven Siler as well, which, Siler's a longtime vet of the game. But Alexander Shabliy is a very slick kickboxer. He has stance switches. He's comfortable out of both stances. He's got nice, patient pressure he'll put on his opponents. He's very fast. He's extremely light on his feet. He's got good straight punches. His kicks are excellent. On the opposite side, Bobby King, strong inside, decent clinch game. Boxing in close, good. He'll mix it up confidently. But in this fight, you have to be very cautious. I think Alexander Shabliy actually knocks out Bobby King in the second round, gets himself a very impressive win. He's a huge favorite for good reason. I do really think that he does win the fight. Looking at the odds for this one, Shabliy, let's see if they have the odds out here. Do we not have odds? Shabliy, minus 400, plus 410. He's a huge favorite. I think Shabliy, the strong favorite here, gets a knockout win over Bobby King, and a signature one. This is his second fight in Bellator, and I do think he gets a knockout in this one. Shabliy is a finisher, though he didn't get that finish in the debut. I think he finishes Bobby King by knockout, round number 2 in the featured prelim of the night. Let's jump to the main card. If you guys have not yet, smash the hell out of that like button. If you're new, subscribe. Turn those post notifications on. You don't want to miss a video. Some excellent fights this week. We're going to be talking about so many of them. So keep it locked in here at MMA Experts. Let's talk about it. It's Johnny Eblen, Collin, Huckbody. Huckbody was signed to the UFC. Unfortunately, was released before we're even getting a fight inside of the UFC, but he is a Contender Series winner. On the opposite side, Johnny Eblen is a real middleweight contender in Bellator on the rise. He's 9-0. He's training with American Top Team and looking better and better each time. I think Johnny Eblen works towards an impressive unanimous decision here, and I think he beats Collin Huckbody. Eblen comes from the wrestling base. He's got really solid wrestling game, but his stand-up has improved tenfold. Nice hooks, really fast kicks to all levels. Will mix it up to the body and head with his punches, which they'll leave openings. There's going to be big shots he can land against Huckbody. He closes distance very well. Huckbody on the opposite side is decent with his stand-up game, but he wants to be in dominant position on the ground. He has a very tricky submission skill set from the top, especially from the top. I don't see him getting on top of Johnny Eblen here. Huckbody's best submission, probably the arm triangle. I think Eblen would get top position if this fight goes to the floor. I don't think Huckbody will find great success looking to get this fight to the mat. I think Johnny Eblen puts on a dominant display. I think he might even get a TKO in the second or third round, but I am leaning decision for Eblen in this fight. I think on this Bellator card, we might see a lot of decisions, but Johnny Eblen should look impressive and beat Collin Huckbody, the former signed UFC fighter, unfortunately never fought in the UFC. This is a good fight for Eblen to continue to build him. It will move him to 10-0. Looking at the lines for this one, wow, huge. Minus 910, plus 700. It's essentially unbettable unless you're willing to throw tons of money at Johnny Eblen, but I really feel as though he's going to beat Collin Huckbody. I got Johnny Eblen. Dominant decision, potential late TKO as well. Looking forward to seeing this fight between these middleweights. I'm excited to see what happens between both these guys. Now, the featured bout of the night, Josh Hill, Jared Scoggins. Familiar last name, Scoggins. If you remember Justin Scoggins, ex-UFC fighter, a hard guy to deal with for a lot of people. This is his brother. He fights a super experienced Josh Hill. I think that Jared Scoggins is going to win this bout. Now, from what I've seen of Scoggins, pretty solid with the stand-up game. He is a confident striker, likes to keep the hands low and be unpredictable. He's really quick. He closes distance very well. He's got really heavy kicks from range. His wrestling is great, and he can mix in the wrestling extremely well with his striking. Young, 26 years of age. He takes on a longtime vet, the 20-4 Josh Hill, former World Series of Fighting fighter. Unfortunately, he fights Rafael Stotts in the last one. You're not going to beat a guy like Rafael Stotts. Most people in the world are not. He's a hellish fighter to deal with. Josh Hill, I think, loses on a hard-fought decision here. There's things to like. I mean, Josh Hill is very technically sound. He does everything right. His hands are up high. His chin is down low. I don't think it'll be easy for Scoggins to find openings. I think he'll work towards having better moments, maybe landing a couple of takedowns. Might even see a split decision. I could see this one being close, but I do like Jared Scoggins in his Bellator debut to beat the longtime vet, Josh Hill. Odds about pick'ems, minus 117, plus 104 for Scoggins. They're essentially even money here. And I got Jared Scoggins beating Josh Hill by a decision in a bantamweight fight that I'm excited because I want to see how far Scoggins can go. I was always a fan of his brother. Unfortunately, never had the best UFC career. But Jared, I think he's got that real potential. And I think it starts with beating Josh Hill here. Keep your eye on Scoggins in this bantamweight division. Now, co-main event of the evening, Emmanuel Sanchez versus Jeremy Kennedy. The Matador versus Jeremy Kennedy, the former finalist in PFL. It's a good fight. I think that Emmanuel Sanchez will win, though. He's a very good pressure striker who will scrap inside. He's solid with his grappling on the floor, especially in this fight here. Jeremy Kennedy doesn't pose that elite level wrestling threat or that serious knockout power threat. I'd call Kennedy a pretty well-rounded guy, bit of a jack of all trades. He's got decent stand-up. He's good with his pressure, and when he puts you against the cage in the clinch, he will look for trips from there. If he gets on top, can get good work done. Emmanuel Sanchez is not a guy you keep on the floor. If you get him down, he finds a way up quickly. He's super high volume, great stamina, has gone 5 rounds in the past. I expect a really high pace from him in this one, putting it on Jeremy Kennedy. He struggles at times with that pressure. I think Sanchez will give him that struggle with pressure. I think Emmanuel Sanchez works towards a win. I do expect unanimous decision for Sanchez in this one. Strong favorite, and for good reason. He's a proven Bellator guy, minus 186, plus 184. Odds are going to range around there. You might even find Sanchez at a more widespread favorite in the minus 200 range. I think he's going to beat Jeremy Kennedy. Win by decision for Emmanuel Sanchez. I'm excited to see it. Sanchez, longtime vet, 2-fight losing streak. He looks to snap it here. Jeremy Kennedy losing his last one as well, so both guys coming off losses. I think Sanchez, though, does get it done. And at this point, kind of like that featherweight top line gatekeeper, and I think he's going to send Jeremy Kennedy back. Should be a fun fight in the featherweight division for this co-main event. In the main event, smash that like button if you guys haven't, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Sergio Pettis, Kyoji Horiguchi. Talk about the fight we want to see. Horiguchi was the champion in Bellator, relinquished his belt, went back to Rizin, had a loss in Rizin to Kaya Skura. They rematch. He impressively finishes him. I love what I see from Horiguchi. I'm picking Horiguchi in this fight. Sergio Pettis, not an easy guy to deal with. He's an extremely technical kickboxer. His ground game has improved tenfold. Wrestling defense, way better. His footwork's fantastic. He picks his shots extremely well. Good boxing inside. Really nice kicks from the outside. Watch for his quick body kicks. Horiguchi, though, I would call him an excellent striker. You look at the losses he's had. I mean, that tough loss to Escura, and then he lost like early on in his career. And then he loses to Mighty Mouse in the UFC. He goes on a 3-fight win streak in the UFC and then leaves to go fight in Rizin. Horiguchi is a special fighter. He beat Darian Caldwell twice, who at the time was the champion. And then Horiguchi was able to win the belt. One of the fights in Rizin, one in Bellator. I love what I see from Horiguchi. He's like a really hard guy to read. He has a unique striking style. He doesn't have a normal pattern of striking. You can't really expect always what he's going to do. Hands are a little bit low, but he is defensively sound. Nasty calf kicks. Obviously, the game has changed with these calf kicks. He will rip you open with them. Throws them extremely hard and fast. Obviously, Pettis, high-level striking game. I expect him to see and read a lot of those calf kicks and have some moments of his own. Though I think Horiguchi, with his explosiveness, will find a way inside, lands a big overhand punch. And I actually think Kyoji Horiguchi puts a stamp on this one, a staple. He really locks it down, winning his belt back. I expect Horiguchi to sleep Sergio Pettis, round number 3, knockout for Kyoji Horiguchi in a fight that I cannot wait. This is some of the best bantamweight fighters on the planet, regardless of organization. I'm so excited to see these guys go at it. Fantastic Bellator main event. Sergio Pettis has come into his own. Let's see, can he fend off the former champ, Horiguchi? Even Pettis has said he feels like he's babysitting Horiguchi's belt. So this is truly the title fight now. And if you can beat Horiguchi, you're the true champion. I don't expect him to. I think Kyoji Horiguchi wins back his belt and is a dangerous bantamweight worldwide, regardless of organization. Looking at the odds, Horiguchi minus 162, Pettis plus 158, odds ranging around there. I think it's going to be a Horiguchi win. I think he's going to get the knockout, 3rd round. He's going to beat Sergio Pettis, get his title back. And there's some interesting fights in the bantamweight division. I'm excited to see what Horiguchi can do because I know Rafael Stotts will be in the wings waiting. He's probably the next guy in line. I would say most sensible next guy in line. Horiguchi, hellish fight, especially now when you give him a guy who will want to sit in there and strike with him. I think he's going to knock out Sergio Pettis in a kickboxing battle. Fantastic main event. This Bellator card is fire, guys. Best Bellator card we've had in a while. From bottom all the way to top, I'm intrigued by every fight on this card. Can't wait. It's on Friday. I will be doing a fight companion. Looking forward to it. Make sure you guys tune into that. Smash the like button here if you're new to the channel. Subscribe. Turn the post notifications on. Keep it locked in. We're covering all things mixed martial arts here at MMA Experts. We got live breakdown on Tuesday. We have this week's best MMA bets. We have the money line podcast, weigh-in recap shows. You don't want to miss a thing. Fight Companion 2, which I'm excited to bring back for this Bellator card. Smash the likes, subscribe. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Much love to all my continued supporters. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace, guys.